They asked Jesus to increase their faith. Unfortunately, that's not something Jesus can do. Faith is a gift. Increasing it, that's up to you and me. That's a choice. And God's other great gift to us was free will. And God expects us to make our own decisions and choices in life. That's what God does. Faith is nothing more than a knowledge, a belief, or confidence in something unseen and unproven. That's what faith is. And each one of us here have chosen things we put our beliefs into. They differ. Yours might be different than mine. Mine's different than yours. And on it goes and on. People choose what they want to believe. It's what people do. And that's what God respects. It's what happens in life. Back in 1764, a young boy was born by the name of James Smithson. He was the illegitimate son of Hugh Percy, the first Duke of Northumberland. Be impressed. I looked that up. I have no idea what that is either. I have no idea. At the age of 10, young James returned to England, where he took his title and his estate, became a very wealthy young man. And that could have been fine. He could have lived a nice, comfortable life for himself in Northumberland and whatever that is. But he didn't. He decided to become a scientist. Yeah, he studied the whole bit, became a chemist and a mineralogist, traveled throughout Europe and Asia doing all kinds of study, and wrote very many learned papers for the British Scientific Society and the whole bit. And he did all kinds of fancy stuff. And he died in Italy. He moved to Italy, and he died in Genoa, Italy. He had no wife or children. He had one heir, his nephew. And according to his will, if his nephew had no heirs, his estate would go to the United States of America. Kind of a new place to have, get all this money. People were upset by that. It was going to go for one specific purpose. There was going to be an institution developed for the increase and dissolution of knowledge. Kind of a nice thing to do, give a foreign country all your money, especially when he never set foot here. He never visited our country, didn't know anybody from America. He just decided to give total strangers his entire estate to build something. Why? He probably thought we might need some knowledge. The place that was built with his money is something called the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. I was up there a few weeks ago. It's much larger now. It's gotten bigger because we're Americans. We keep stuff. We got lots of stuff there. Lots and lots of stuff. And then one of the places, the Museum of the Natural American History, they had the Batmobile. I went to see the Batmobile. Has nothing to do with this sermon, I just thought I mentioned that. But in that building is the most popular exhibit they have in all the Smithsonian museums. It's one large room, and in that room are 2 pairs of shoes. Ruby red slippers. People line up to look at a pair of shoes. Yeah. Back in the year 1900, L. Frank Baum wrote a children's book called The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. In 1929, they made a movie about it, starring Judy Garland. And in that movie, there's 4 characters. They're on a journey to this wonderful place of Oz to meet the mighty and powerful wizard who will solve their problems for them. Because that's what people do. Look out for find people to solve their problems for them. And they had rather specific problems. The Scarecrow, he needed brains. He wasn't very smart. The Tin Man, he had no emotion, so he wanted a heart. The Lion, he was scared to death of everything, so he wanted courage. And young Dorothy just wanted to go home. And they had these adventures up and down, traveling back and forth, running all kinds of problems for themselves, and they finally get to Oz, and they finally meet the wizard, and it turns out, the moral of the story, they already had those things within them. The Scarecrow was the one who sat back and solved all their problems along their journeys. He already had brains. The Tin Man cared for all these new friends and kept them in his arms the whole time. Why? Because he already had heart. The Lion, he defended them all. He already had courage. And Dorothy, this was her family. She already was home the whole time. It's a very simple story. It's one of those things they had, that we already have this living within us. Our second reading today, St. Paul wrote to Timothy that the Spirit of God dwells within us already. And that Spirit's not a cowardly spirit. It's one that has strength and caring and wisdom. Those things are already within one of us, but we have to flame them alive. We have to keep them going because it doesn't just stop with just getting it. When I was a young man, a very smart man told me, he says, the only thing I needed to know about God was that I wasn't it. That little kernel of information started my journey of faith. That little piece of thing that, you know what? I'm not in charge. I could relax a little bit. And I went out looking around for different things. It's a wonderful thing. One of the things I discovered is that if you have faith in your life, you need to be happy. If you're not happier because of your faith, get another faith. It's really that simple. Faith should sit back and give you joy and serenity. It should give you comfort in life when you face problems and troubles, when you face good times. That's what faith should do. It should give you that confidence. That simple thing, knowledge and confidence and belief, so you can get through life. It's a simple process, nothing really that complicated about it. He says, but it's something that we have a hard time doing because, other people will tell us what we need to believe. But I've discovered something rather strange. I was very attracted to the Roman Catholic Church because we have different ways of doing things. We have a variety of spiritualities. You can be Franciscan, you can be Ignatian, you can be Dominican, you can be Benedictine, you can be on and on and on and on. And all kinds of different devotions, too. So what one person likes might not work for somebody else, and vice versa. It isn't just black and white. It isn't just, you do this, you'll be fine. It doesn't work that way. There's variety. There's different ways of doing things. People are different. People have different ways of going it. And yet, all those different spiritualities, as different as they may be, all lead to the same point. There's a God. It isn't you. That's simple. Lighten up. Let it go. God's in charge. It's a wonderful concept. And that's the funny thing people say all the time. Well, you got to defend your faith. You got to sell your faith. You got to give your faith. You know what? No one's buying. No, they had their own faith. Thank you very much. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is live your faith. It's that simple. If you live your faith, you'll be living a life of joy, of peace, of serenity. If you have a faith in your life, if you don't have it yet, you're not done with your journey. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep following down that yellow brick road. That's what we have to do. We all travel that way. But it's all about living it. And the prophet Habakkuk in our first reading today said, the just man, because of his faith, will live. Because without faith, you just exist. You just survive. Faith will give you purpose in your life. Faith will give you what you need to make your life worthwhile. What a novel concept. Because I don't know the rest of you all, my life is kind of short. I'm only here for a very short period of time. They said this Sunday is called Respect Life Sunday, which is a nice thing. Because if I'm not God, if I'm not in charge, that means I don't own any of this. This universe belongs to somebody else. I'm just passing through. And I can be one of two things. I can be a visitor, a guest here for a little while. That's the least I can do. Or I can be, a caretaker and help out while I'm passing through, take care of things a little bit. You've all had guests like that in your house. The ones who just sit there waiting you to wait on them. And the other ones who sit back and clean out your refrigerator for you. But both of them are the same thing. It's not your stuff. You have to have respect for this world because it isn't yours. This world isn't yours. This life isn't yours. That's what God has. He asks us to respect these things. A lot of people say, God's pro-life. And yes, he is pro-life. That's right. You need to respect people out there in the world. The good people you like, the people you don't like. The people who like you, the people who don't like you. All of them, good, bad, or indifferent, you got to respect them. But God's more than pro-life. God's pro-eternal life. This is just passing. We're all here to learn stuff. We're here to fall down, make mistakes, grow from those things, find more. Let this faith of ours keep developing if we do it right, because we're moving on to someplace else. That's what we're celebrating. That's where we all come together. No matter what path you go down, it all leads to the same place, that there is a God. It ain't you. And that's what it comes down to, is that simple faith. So, tonight when I go to bed, hopefully I can sit back and say, well, I did my bit as a servant, maybe not that good. I'll evaluate this thing after I get done with it, not till it's over with. It's like, well, that's all right. But you know what? I'll be happy. That's what the faith is supposed to do for me, that I tried my best. And that's good enough. And I'll also set my alarm clock for tomorrow morning. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow morning, but I got faith that maybe I'll wake up. If I do that right, it'll be okay. That's all we're called to do. Just try a little bit. If we do it right, we'll do all right. Let's stand now and profess our faith. I believe in one God,